And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Natasha Black, who was clinically dead for 7 minutes and had a near-death experience. Natasha, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Natasha, let's start on the day that you died and go from there.
Okay, so hadn't had much life yet as a 7-year-old. I was at my cousin's place in Sydney in the backyard, and I had so I died from an asthma attack, and was born with asthma, and that I was allergic to pollens and things, in nature sometimes, dust and all of those things, which was very much in their backyard, in my cousin's backyard. And we were just playing there, and I started to get a bit of an asthma attack. And so I went up into the house and was looking for my asthma inhaler, which I took everywhere with me. I never went anywhere without it, but this day I did. I had forgotten it. It wasn't there. And we went through my whole cousin's place trying to look for one. None of them had asthma, but they thought, oh, maybe we have something here just in case. We're not sure. So we'd turn the house upside down looking for something, and we couldn't find anything. And so I remember discussions going on with my mom and my dad about what do we do? Do we go to the hospital, which was I think about 35, 40 minutes away. And so it was a bit frantic. I was like really struggling and laboring through the breath. It was quite difficult. And when I have asthma attacks, or when I used to have really bad asthma attacks, you can panic a lot. And the panic, doesn't help the situation, but I was panicking. And so then I remember it kicking up a notch with the frantic energy. And so then my dad made the decision, yeah, let's go to the hospital. So my uncle said, okay, you follow me, and like come in the car with her. So it was just me and my dad in the car following my uncle who was leading the way. And so, yeah, we were driving on the way to hospital. I remember we were speeding. um, speeding. It was definitely a high speed. So I remember thinking, oh, this is really fast. And it was probably making me panic a little bit as well, just the speed of that, because I realized how serious it was. And so we're in the car. I just remember going through red lights. We'd crossed when you have a train track and it has the traffic lights there to tell you to stop. There was no train coming. It was red. I remember that. And we just went through that, just trying to get to the hospital as soon as we could. And then I remember just starting to really tire, and I was getting very tired, and I was saying to my dad, oh, I'm just getting like, I'm tired. And the next thing, and he was trying to keep me awake. He was trying to keep me up and not talking, but just, talking to me so I would stay awake. And then I remember saying, I'm just going to put my head down for a little bit. I'm really tired. And that would have been broken breath, because, you can't really complete a sentence when you're trying to get through an asthma attack like that. And he said, no, no, no. I remember him yelling, but at this point, I remember his voice becoming more distant. So I put my head down, he's yelling at me, and I knew he was yelling at me, but it was like, if you're listening underwater, it's just that muffled sound. And he's saying, stay awake, stay awake. And he was yelling out my name, stay awake, but I couldn't. I was just tired. All I knew that I just wanted to go to sleep. Um, I didn't have any thoughts around it. It was just, I just wanted to go to sleep. So I put my head down, and then that was all I remember from that point. So I'll switch to now where my dad kicked into another gear, and he said that he turned over, he saw that my eyes rolled back, into my head, and then I was foaming at the mouth. So he knew, okay, I've got to do something else here because we're still a little way from the hospital. So he saw this correctional facility or detention center close by. So he sped up to that place, swerved, parked right out the front, and they were having their recess or break. And he pulled right out the front of the gate, and he got out of the car. I think he was half up on the gutter, got up out from the car, went up to the gate and was screaming through the gate, does anybody know CPR? And so this one um, inmate, I guess you could call them, said, yes, I know CPR. And so he was able to perform CPR with, of course, supervision. So he was doing that. I would assume, actually, I don't know this part of it, but I would assume my uncle or somebody, even from the correctional facility, called an ambulance. And so this guy was performing CPR, ambulance comes, and then I get transported into the ambulance. And on the way to the hospital, so my dad was following in his car. On the way to the hospital, they were doing the defib because I had died. And so they were doing that all the way to the hospital. And then I remember the next thing I remember was seeing above my body, looking down on my body, and I could see the nurses and the doctors doing the defib on me. It was crazy energy. Everyone was everywhere looking at the monitors, trying to bring me back to life. And I was just watching. It was just like you're watching a movie. I was just watching from above, looking down. And that's it. I felt very detached from who I was. It was like it was me, but it wasn't me. And I was just really feeling the energy in the room that everyone was really panicking and trying to make this work. So now I'll go back to what I experienced when I actually crossed over. So I was going down this tunnel. So it was actually in my cousin's backyard that I saw this vision. And there was a pathway of demons, and I don't know what I can put this down to, what it was. Someone may have an explanation for this, I don't know. Because I was brought up with religion, I wondered if it was my mind or my belief system that was actually creating these beings. Maybe I thought I was going to hell, I don't know. But there was a pathway of demons and entities that were trying to grab at me as I was walking down the middle of this path. So they're trying to grab me, they couldn't. I was like just, missing. And, it's if you were playing a game of like, tag or something. And then I remember seeing at one point after making it through, I remember seeing a tunnel, and it was getting bigger and bigger of the white light. So it started small and then it was becoming larger. And then the next thing I knew, I walked down that tunnel, went into the light. And when I was in the light, I was in this place of, I like to describe it as nothing and everything at the same time. I'm sure you've heard this before, but it was a space of pure love, pure um, knowledge, like everything exists there. You could manifest anything. You could, it was just this place where everything and nothing existed. You don't have attachments to anything, not of who you are. You're not thinking about your family that you've left behind. Well, at least I didn't. You don't have an attachment to your labels, to your gender, to anything like that. So, yeah, I was just in this space of pure consciousness, and I remember thinking, wow, this place is phenomenal. I feel like I'm home and I do not want to go back. So I remember having this experience and having the thought of, I do not want to go back. And then I heard this voice, or it was like a collective of voices, but it was one and it was spoken through telepathy that said, you can't go back yet. You still have so much to do. And I remember saying, "No, I don't wanna go back, like, this is beautiful, this is why would I wanna go back there, you know? I wanna stay here, it just feels like I'm in this blanket of love, and I never want to leave." You're not wanting for anything, and yeah, it's just incredible. And the voices were saying, "No, you have so much to do here, you're going to help a lot of people." So you have to go back. It's not your time. And after I heard that, I remember thinking, okay, then if I have a purpose, then I'm happy to kind of go back and do what I'm supposed to be doing. Um, but even though the voices were saying, you have to go back, it's not your time, I still remember knowing that I still had a choice. I still remember having that feeling and that knowing, like, I'm still choosing. If I wanted to push back and stay, I could have. That was the feeling that I had. And so yeah, I came back and that was that. I remember sitting in the hospital bed. I don't remember coming back into my body. I do actually want to do a hypno session where I experience that and just uncover more information, because I was only 7 years old. So yeah, then I remember being in my body, in the hospital bed. It was about 3 days where I was not really responsive. I was sitting up in the bed and people were talking to me. I remember who was there. I just couldn't respond. I couldn't speak. My eyes were glazed over somewhat, and you know, they couldn't get much response out of me. And they thought, oh, there's a possibility that she may suffer from brain damage after this experience. You know, we're not really getting much from her. And then that was that. I just remember after that just coming to, and it was, yeah, that was it. I remember coming out of this experience and having a lot of questions about the religion that I grew up in. I remember growing up always just asking, these really pivotal questions. Just critical thinking, I guess, from a young age. I was like, okay, well, if it says this, then why are we, doing that? Or, there was a lot that just didn't make sense to me. So I kind of began my true spiritual journey, I would say, from that place, because I just had so many questions that I couldn't have answered through the way I was brought up. Um, so yeah, that was that. And yeah, it was an experience. And there was another part of it where when I came to, I was chatting to my dad and I told him word for word a discussion that he had with a doctor in the hallway as they were doing CPR and defib on me in the hospital room, the operating room. He was out in the hallway with the doctor, and the doctor was actually saying, we don't think she's going to make it. And so I recalled word for word what his discussion was. And I remember his face, and he said, and he is the biggest skeptic of ever. Um, he said, how do you know that? There is no way that you could have known what we were speaking about. Like, there's just no way. And so, if it's even made him question a little bit, okay, there's something, it's not just this physical body that we're experiencing, there's a lot more to it. So yeah, that was my experience.
Natasha, thank you for sharing your experience with us. Interestingly, you are the second guest I've had that was walking on some sort of pathway and had demons reaching up.
Wow.
Do you recall what the demons looked like?
No, I do remember that they were different. So I do remember that there was all different types of demons. I would say they were just like gremlins, or the things that you see in the movies, I guess. It's like these beings, and I don't know if anyone's watched Stranger Things. I'm sure there's plenty of people here that have, beings like that, but they were all different and they were all just trying to grab at me. So yeah, it's interesting that someone else has experienced that.
Hmm. Were you afraid when they were reaching up after you?
Yeah, definitely. I remember thinking, "Oh, this is horrible. Like, this is scary." I don't know what to do other than just try to get through it and just try and dodge them and weave my way in through it. But for some reason, they couldn't quite grab onto me. So yeah. But there's lots of parts of this story that I really want to go into deeper through a hypno session to uncover more information, just to potentially get more clarity.
You heard a bunch of voices or a collective of voices coming through what it appears to be just one voice. Who do you think those voices were?
Yeah, I've been on quite a journey to uncover this, and I've also had a contact experience, which when I was pregnant with my second child, and I kept having this feeling that the two experiences were connected. And so I've gone down this path alongside exploring what spirituality and the cosmic realms are, and other beings and aliens and all of that kind of stuff. I've kind of explored a lot of that. But alongside exploring that, I just had this feeling that I've got to go and see if these experiences are connected. And so I went and did a hypno session, and they were. So, what I believe until this point is that I was brought back home. I know this is going to sound, crazy to some potentially. Um,
Well, not for my audience.
the Palladians. And so, I work with them closely. I've gone down lots of different paths exploring folklore and traditional cultures of different, religions or philosophies that have kind of brought back information about the Palladians. So to my knowledge and belief at this point, I feel like it was them. It was confirmed in the hypno session that I had been contacted. There's been a couple of contact experiences, and one of them being this NDE, that they were bringing me back to kind of remember why I came here, um, to implant soul memory, I guess you could say, to reignite my mission. And yeah, I feel like both of those times I've been activated into a new level of growth and remembering. So yeah, that's who I believe it is to this point. But as I say with anything that I believe, is if there was information that contradicts that, I'm open to it shifting, but that's what I strongly believe. And it's been quite a journey actually for me to trust my intuition and to not gaslight myself, into, believing and feeling these things, and to the point where I just didn't believe anything for quite a while because I thought that this is a bit crazy. But I've listened to a lot of podcasts and interviews, such as, what you're creating, which is amazing because it's helped me confirm things and help me trust my intuition of what I've experienced and felt. a lot more. And it was I think about 6 months ago, I listened to this podcast about another lady that had a contact experience. And she experienced, there was just one minor detail that was different to mine, but she experienced exactly the same contact experience that I did. It was pretty much my story, just except for one minor detail. So this really helps people like me who have experienced things to kind of confirm what we're, feeling and experiencing. So thank you for doing what you do, because it really does help.
Well, thank you because you're the one that's helping people. And
Mm,
without guests like you coming forward and being brave, you wouldn't have these experiences out there.
mm.
Do you think it's possible that you are a Pleiadian having a human experience?
Yes, I really feel that. And I feel that a lot of us have had this experience, but not a lot of us remember. So I really do feel that. I know I have been in other star systems before. That's been confirmed to me in multiple ways, including a hypno session. But the Pleiades is where I was last. And so that feels more like home to me because I was there more recently. And I also uncovered, and it came through to me in the hypno session, that actually there were many of our ascended masters that came from there as well. So yeah, it's fascinating.
Do you feel like you don't fit in with humanity or you don't fit in on Earth?
I have certainly felt like that throughout my life. I have. It's actually been very difficult to even talk about this because I never want to sound like I'm above anyone for feeling left out. I never want to put myself in a bracket where I'm more special than someone else, because I'm not. But I have experienced throughout my whole life friendship groups and lots of environments where I feel really misunderstood, or I have been bullied. I was bullied a lot throughout school. And so, yeah, I have had experiences where I feel completely not seen and misunderstood. And I'm still working through some of those things now. I still feel sometimes that I don't feel seen, and that is quite difficult sometimes. But the more I have gone on my journey of self-confidence and self-worth, I guess, I have realized and understood how important it is to meld in with everybody. So I kind of would call myself a bit of a chameleon now, where I kind of, if I'm in this environment, I match the energy and the frequency to that environment. I don't talk about anything that I believe in unless it comes up naturally or people are interested in it. I don't force anything on anyone. So I kind of feel like a bit of a chameleon now. I've had to learn how to do that instead of feeling like I'm so misunderstood, no one understands me. But then on the other side of that, I have also had to learn how to put out my full self into the world and, be confident in showing who I am, because I've learned that the more I'm doing that, the more I'm calling in the people that actually are supposed to be in my life, or the people that do see me. um, but I also don't feel like we have to have only a tribe that sees us or understands us. I think part of this spiritual journey is to kind of help each other along the way, and we're all teachers and we're all students, and I feel like we're all here to help each other, and it doesn't just look one way. You don't just find your tribe and stick to that. um, and I think sometimes that's quite limiting, because you're not reaching a lot of people that you could reach if you're, I can think of one spiritual concept use one set of wording in this group, but in that group, I bring it down to something, layman's terms. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So, yeah, I feel like I'm matching the words and the energy to those groups and saying the same things in a different way. So yeah, I'm not afraid to not be in my tribe anymore. It's just, how can I utilize my teachings or just be my own philosophy and reach others in every environment.
Do you see UFOs?
I believe I have, yes. And I've actually seen more during the day than I have at night. So yeah, I've looked at night. I feel like I've seen a couple at night. I'm always looking though, but I feel like I've seen more during the day. There's been things that I've seen disappear in the sky, certain shapes, and they're 1 minute, not there the next, and there's no clouds in the sky. So yeah, I do believe that I have seen them.
I know you were only 7, but after your NDE, did you notice you had any new gifts or abilities?
Yeah, like I didn't really call them or put it down to a gift until I kind of started going on my spiritual journey and realizing that, oh, I'm actually quite intuitive. But it kind of took me a long time to even reach that point to believe that I actually had it. Um, I really didn't have the confidence to call it my intuition, but my intuition from a young age has always been a knowing. I just knew things and I didn't know how I knew it, but I just knew it. And, then I've gone around the bush trying to prove it wrong or prove it right. But, I definitely felt like I had a gift in helping people and seeing people and really seeing into their soul and seeing everything about them beyond their behaviors. And I really see people. And I believe that people have even subconsciously felt that because sometimes I know like my energy can make people feel uncomfortable just because I can see things. But from a young age, I wouldn't have said that I had that. I just, now that I'm looking back, I can see that, yeah, I've always had knowing and I could see things beyond. And I used to say after my NDE, I used to say, I don't know how, but I want to help a lot of people. And I used to think I wanted to be a doctor. I used to think I wanted to, be a psychologist. And there was lots of different paths that I explored to trying to find out how am I supposed to help people I don't understand. So I've explored a few things, and I've come back to helping people find their own truth within, and that they're a healer within, and what actually our human body or our human capability is capable of. So I would call myself a healer, I guess, a guide, I guess. I'm just sharing what feels true for me and what's helped me in my experience, but ultimately just helping people guide them back to who they really are and what they're actually capable of.
I didn't mention this at the beginning, but you are also a channeler. How did that start happening for you?
Yes, if you like, if I think back to even 4 years ago when, if I was to watch this interview, I would think, what, like, that is crazy. No. So it came across my path. I was never really, receiving kind of messages like that from a young age. A lot of people have experienced that. It wasn't like that for me. I started going on my spiritual journey, exploring my intuition deeper and deeper. Started noticing that in my healings, I would see people come into the room and things just started happening. I was just in the right pocket, I guess, the right zone, honing in on my intuition. And then all of a sudden I started watching these videos of these channelers and just feeling so intrigued by what it was. And I was actually very skeptical of it. I thought, oh, this is just put on, this is fake, I don't believe it, but I'm watching it because it's still intriguing and it's still fascinating to me. And so I just kept watching these videos. I was actually just receiving the information of it, putting the channeling bit aside, but I was like, oh, the information's good. It's very helpful and it's it's helping my own growth. So that kind of made me look into it a little bit deeper. And then I got this book about how to channel and started reading the book. And then when I started reading the book, I started having these dreams that something was trying to speak through my voice, or it was kind of taking over my voice. And it just, as my throat's needs clearing now, I just had this feeling that something needs to be said through me. And it was like this lump, like I couldn't get it out. But this took it took 3 years, I would say, for me to even open up to the possibility that, 1, I could do it, and 2, that it was even real, and 3, that I even wanted to share that with people because I thought, imposter syndrome. Who am I to do this? Why am I so special more than anyone? Well, I'm not, because anybody can do this. Anybody, I believe, if they wish to, they can pick up and access the same gifts as anyone else. It just depends on what your level of interest is, I guess, into that own topic. So, yeah, then I started r- writing, automatic writing, and all these profound messages just have started coming through, and my writing would change. And I just started noticing that I was guiding myself, through this channeled writing. Through my spiritual journey, I would overcome challenges. I would really access this wisdom that was really helping me in my life. So, yeah, I guess it started like that. And then I started building the confidence to actually share it through my voice and, get into that pocket and share it on video and things like that. So, it's not something that I like to show off. It just started happening through healings, and I would just feel this other presence come in. I was still very much me, and I think there's misconceptions about what it was, which is probably why I was a little bit frightened of it at the start. I guess I didn't really understand much about it, but I just felt this presence and this energy come through, and then all this wisdom would come out. Or how I started noticing that it was more real was, or trusting that it was real, was that I would use words that weren't in my vocabulary. And I just knew what the meaning was without ever using that word in my life. Or I would speak about a specific healing modality and I didn't even know what it was, but the information would just come to me. So, just things like that. I just started thinking, okay, there's something that I'm tapping into here that's not me. So, yeah, that's kind of how it started, and I just use it in my healing sessions and to use it where it's needed, not as a party trick or anything like that. I just use it where I feel like it could benefit humanity and to access wisdom that, but at the end of the day, whether I'm in a healing session or doing it on video, I am just a vessel for information to come through. And I believe that we're all like that. It's just that some of us are more tapped in or have an interest to actually take it to that next level.
Can you give us a couple examples of words that you never used before?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. No, I can't think of anything. Sorry, I can't think of anything right now, but I have accessed, there's been certain spiritual, and I can't even think of the examples right now of this, but there've been certain things that I've brought through in a healing session where someone has said, "Oh, did you just access this?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm just doing what I'm doing. It's not known to me. I'm just doing it." But they have the name for it. Was something like Blu-ray light or chakra or something. They knew exactly what it was. And I said, I don't know. It's just what I'm being guided to do, and I'm just following that. So yeah, but quite often I've got a whole couple of journals of channeled writing with words that, have now become a part of my vocabulary. There was even one the other day, but I just can't think of an example. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Are you channeling a Pleiadian, an angel, or something else?
Mostly, I am channeling a collective of Pleiadians. Uh, their energy is always around me, and generally, if I'm giving general information or healing, I am channeling them. But sometimes, a few weeks ago, I had a message from Thoth, the Atlantean, or it will be Mary Magdalene or Goddess Isis. There's so many different masters that come through, just sharing different pieces of information. So, they've been the main ones, but the Pleiadians are usually the ones that I channel the most.
Are you a trance channel, or are you aware of what's going on in real
Yeah.
time?
I'm very aware of what's going on, so I don't go into trance. There have been times where I have felt myself swaying and, my energy's moving in my body and I just kind of need to move it that way, but I'm very conscious of that. Um, it's just like, and I've heard other people describe this as exactly how it is. I've just moved my consciousness aside to let this other conscious stream of consciousness come through me. So I'm literally just like this casing, for this consciousness and message to come through. But I'm very aware of what's happening when it's happening. Afterwards, though, I may not remember the information that's come through. So I actually do need to go and listen to it. And, I love doing that. So I'm like, whoa, that's, I just love all those confirmations that come through again. Like, okay, I'm really, tapping into something. And that was so profound. And I needed to hear that. So sometimes I remember exactly what the message was. Other times I don't. But even if I don't remember it, it's like a frequency signature or a frequency package. I remember exactly what the message is through this frequency package. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's kind of like a frequency bomb of information that I know is in my body, and I've received that information. And if someone were to ask me a question about it, I could answer it. It's just there. So I hope that makes sense, but that's kind of how it feels.
If people want to see some of your channelings, can they go to your YouTube channel and watch?
Yes, I've just started sharing some on my TikTok, and I've started sharing some on my YouTube channels. So they can definitely see that. Um, I'm not spending as much time on Instagram at the moment. So YouTube and TikTok is where people can find me now. It seems to be actually where I'm feeling the most sense of community, which I love. I love not just having people follow me, but I love having the engagement in the comments. And I feel like TikTok and YouTube are very much, people are engaging with each other in the comments, and it just feels a lot nicer. I don't have a large audience yet because I've had to start over a couple of times, due to content that I may have posted that was not allowed. I don't know. We're all kind of battling that at the moment. So yeah, that's where I am mostly.
Do you fear death?
No, no, there's nothing for me that feels scary about death, itself. I would say the process, I would think about a couple of times, and think, oh, I wouldn't like to feel that. But I don't know how much I would actually feel. There's a bit of a struggle and a bit of pain. If I go back to my own experience, there's a bit of struggle and pain, but then there's a point where you're removed from it and you don't feel the full extent of it. But I have to say, like, I do think about the process of it and how it's going to happen, but the death itself, no, I don't fear. And in actual fact, I wanted to become a death doula, to help other people through that process. I haven't gone down that path yet. There's lots of things that I wanted to explore, but I do help people understand what it's like in my own way through healing sessions, if it comes up. So yeah, no, I don't fear it.
Well, if people want to reach out to you and ask you questions, are you open to that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I love having engagement with people and community. I just love community. I love knowing that we're all on this path together and we're helping each other, and we're a team. Like, we're all trying to guide each other out of this matrix or towards the light or through our difficulties. So I love people asking me questions, and I love feeling like there's people out there that are enjoying what I'm saying as I'm enjoying other people's. So yeah, definitely open to that.
What's the best way to reach you?
So on TikTok, I am at Natasha J Black. It's the same on YouTube. So Natasha J Black. And then my website is www.natashablack.com.au.
Are you working on anything that you want people to know about?
I have a running project, which is a membership. It's not expensive. It's just, I've called it it's a mystery school. So it's a membership where I just post classes, online healings. I post channeled messages, and then we get special guests in. So I do that every month. And we just go with the energy that's present, working through our own healings and supporting each other. So that's the project that I have ongoing. I have other things in person here on the Gold Coast, an in-person healing event where I'm showing other people how I heal and channel and access, that information. So that's the running thing. I also do private sessions and healings online, and and all of that. So they can access all of those, the list of offerings, through my website.
Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Yes, and I love this because, putting all the esoterics aside, um, I always talk about how it's so important for us to come and open our heart, to keep our hearts open. A lot of healing comes through there. I talk about seeing through the eyes of the heart. So if we want to be more compassionate, forgiving, and loving toward each other, it's really seeing situations through the eyes of the heart. So how would our heart see that person? Every person, I believe, is born pure. It's just that we are trained out of that, by multiple circumstances. So keeping our hearts open and really trying to understand that, if you're going through something with someone, there's another side to that. There's always another side that maybe you don't see, you don't understand, but sometimes the people that need love the most is the ones that don't show it to us. And I know that can be difficult for people to process that information, and I'm not discounting that people go through traumas and stresses and they are victims of other people. But, we go back to that saying, hurt people hurt people. And it really is true. And I think, just sharing more love with the world, and stopping the division. You know, we want to come together in unity in this new world. So yeah, just keeping our hearts open and just coming within. And when I talk about ascension, I actually say that it's going within you, it's going within the portal of the heart. So really I feel like there's enough work in that heart space to keep us busy for a lifetime. So, you know, it's a daily practice, isn't it? Judgment and compassion and forgiveness, and to the self as well as showing it to others.
Natasha, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, and I feel honored to be a part of this project that you're doing. And thank you for your light to the world as well.
Thank you. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.